Well, good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Welcome back to another segment of a Europa League and the previews, reviews. We're back in Europa League action. Whoops, sorry about that. Actually back in this month, and I've got my good friend James Rowe with me. We're going to be talking about just that, as well as maybe some Premier League action as well. Remember, we played the weekend against Bournemouth. Anyway, James, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Alex. How are you? I hope everybody's keeping well. And shout out to Ty as well, who is most probably eagerly awaiting his questions. But thanks very much for your patience, Ty. Very much appreciated.
Yeah. So, James, the game, Bournemouth, Arsenal.
Yeah, 2-0 down and bringing it back to 3-2. And, deep into stoppage time, a great goal from Reece Nelson. But there's 12 games to go, a long, long way to go. And it's not over until it's over. So we've got to remain modest. And I know it sounds very cliche, but take things one game at a time.
Yeah. I'm not sure. Have we spoken about Reece Nelson? I mean, I did put out a poll question. Is he worthy of a contract extension? I mean, he's been prone to the odd injury here, there, and everywhere. And is he worth another punt, James, Reece Nelson?
Well, I think you've got to look at all the facts, really. I mean, he came on loan to Feyenoord here in the Netherlands, and he didn't really grasp the opportunity with both hands. And the manager Arne Slot said that he's overtrained, overworked in training in terms of the physicality, and that he appears to have a problem with his hip, and that was ascertained quite quickly. And I think he's done really well at Bournemouth in the game at home that he scored. Did a man of the match performance against Nottingham Forest as well last October. I was there. Yeah. So I think Arsenal may be a short-term contract of maybe 2 to 3 seasons with maybe a loan in between, perhaps, to really because if you think how Bukayo Saka has kicked on, he come on a little bit, I think later on the scene than what Reece Nelson's did, and made more of an impact. So people say about long-term contracts. I think maybe a 2 to 3 year deal for Reece Nelson, and maybe a loan spell in the first instance to see how he reacts to that, and then take it from there.
Yeah. I'm just thinking about the recent crop of players from the academy. Ainsley Maitland-Niles seems to have fallen off somewhere. I'm not sure whether he can revitalise his career. Maitland-Niles, James? No?
Well, I mean, I remember seeing him play as a right back against Rennes, and he was fantastic. It was brilliant. And you thought, this is our right back for years to come. But then the rumours that he wanted to play central midfield, you can't dictate where you play. You can't dictate where you're going to play. You've got to try to force your way in. And, even though he's on loan with Southampton to the end of the season, he could well find himself at the end of the season a Championship player before his loan period is up. And you have to be honest with yourself and about what's going to happen and things like that. So many a twist and turn ahead, but I think that the transfer market now is just like Hollywood on steroids, really. It's as if they pick a name out of the hat, a club out of the hat, and put the two together without any form of awareness. And I think about all the young players that have the door slammed shut in their face because a player arrives. I mean, you take Daniel Ballard, who left Arsenal, already being an international, but couldn't get in front of Gabriel, couldn't get in front of Saliba. But yet, when he would captain Arsenal's under-23s, Saliba would play alongside him. So it just goes to show. And I just think that it's now reached a point where it's about the social media presence of a player, their Instagram, what they've done. You see that signing videos are, it used to be holding the shirt up in the newspaper with a photo, and that was it. Now there's all special effects for transfer videos and things, and I find it completely unnecessary.
All right. I know from the previous show, I couldn't read at least maybe 30% of the comments in the live chat. But what we did do, actually, I screenshotted the question from Tygonosaurus. I didn't get to read his questions. But James, is it okay if we can read out the questions? You can maybe respond to them.
Yeah, absolutely. He's been very patient. So thank you very much for your patience and understanding, Ty. We really appreciate it.
Yeah. So here it is. So the first question they had for you, James, was what does rotation look like in terms of the number of players to change with 2 games a week?
Well, first and foremost, a very good question. And I think that really does depend on the opponent. It depends on the opponent that you're facing. Where are you facing them? Like, for example, Arsenal now go to Lisbon midweek, and then Fulham away, your old stomping ground, and a club you so much admire on the Sunday, and then Sporting Lisbon at home. So I think it very much depends on the opponent and where you play and the fitness of the players. There's no specific formula in that respect, in my opinion.
Okay. And then the second question was, James, do you think the Premier League focus impacts the Europa in terms of players' mindsets?
Again, a very good question. I think potentially yes. I think it's 2 extra games that we knew were coming, regardless of where we were going to be in the league, and 180 minutes against a very good side. And I think that, yes, we are close. We are top of the Premier League, 5 points ahead with 12 games left. But remember that we haven't won the league for 19 years and nothing. There's no such thing as a free lunch. It can get given to you. And I think that, the fitness midweek, I will be disappointed if Arteta makes many changes, because to go out of the Europa League, specifically at the last 16 stage, would be very much the missed opportunity. So I hope that they play their best team. I hope they try to win. I think in Lisbon it will be difficult. If you look at our away days this season, playing in Sint-Gallen against Zurich due to their stadium being occupied, and the away defeat to PSV Eindhoven and going to Bodo Glimt as well. I don't think any of those away games were any convincing performances. And I also think that it can't be flicked on at the drop of a switch. So my prediction for the Sporting Lisbon game is 1-1, in the hope that we will finish the job at home. There's no away goals, which will also, be decisive. And hopefully we can get a good result. As I say, a draw is my prediction. And it's a good Sporting Lisbon side that won against Portimonense last Saturday, where they left Trinchão on the bench, they left St. Just on the bench, they left Mathieu Reis on the bench, and they did come on as substitutes, but they didn't start, and only Bellerin didn't get on the pitch in that game. Yeah. But we mustn't underestimate them. People may say, "Oh, it's not Benfica. Oh, it's not FC Porto." We mustn't underestimate them. We haven't won a European trophy for almost 30 years. And I reiterate what I said last week. Which other big club do you know would play Europa League 5 years consecutively and not win it? So there is the statement in that respect to go into the Champions League with a bit of pedigree, because I do worry that, again, next season it's participation rather than trying to win the thing. And we had that for 25 years and it didn't do us very good. 23 years to be exact. And it didn't do us any good. So, we've got to kind of change our mentality. And if we can go into the Champions League with a bit of pedigree, having won a European trophy, then that could change the outlook and change the attitude of not just the players, but also the fans as well.
James, before I go on to the last question that Tygonosaurus has actually posted for you, if you can probably remind everyone who's watching now that sort of format of the Champions League will change somewhat next season, won't it?
Yes, next season is the Champions League as we know it for the last time, and then it goes to 36 teams where it's all where do you finish, it's all ranking systems, it's all point systems. So at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what happens, does it? At the end of the day, even if you win the first edition, what's wrong with knockout? nothing. But again, it's to make more money. You see about the commercialism in football. Shirt prices being absolutely eye-watering. Programs even going up to £4 now, and whereas on the continent they're free. So it just goes to show. But I think that as I said last week, European football for me in my lifetime as an Arsenal fan has been somewhat bittersweet. Where you as a child, you feel and you experience two back-to-back European finals. We win one of them, beating an amazing Parma side, playing some fantastic opponents, and then comes the teenage years of Champions League, where again participation is viewed more important than trying to win the thing, and then my own attending of football matches in a European sense from the age of about 18, 19 until now. And I've been so fortunate to see so many European teams against Arsenal, pretty much a who's who of European football. But the attitude has always been, isn't this great? Well, it's not great, not winning a European trophy. It's not great getting knocked out in the last 16 by predictable opponents year after year. It's not great, rocking up at a turnstile when fans are turning up late because it's not Bayern Munich, Barcelona, or Real Madrid. So I've seen an awful lot, and you retain a lot of information, and it's just I suppose it's just the way things are now. But we're in a European competition, and we've got a chance to win a European competition for the first time in 29 years. So we've got to take every single round, play your best team, try to win it. Don't try to think, the Premier League, we're so close. Because if we don't win it, it means a trophyless season. Before we came on, you mentioned about touching on Manchester United, Liverpool yesterday. First and foremost, Manchester United, although it's an awful result for them yesterday, they're not trophyless this season. They've got something to show for it. And also the rivalry in the north of England, being a southern-based capital club, the first ones to turn professional, if you like. As when we know our history, in terms of all the bells and whistles of what professionalism brings, we've got a massive, rich history to live up to. But in terms of European football, we are very much found wanting in our record in European finals from 1980 to 95 to 2006 to 2019. So at some point, you've got to try to right that wrong.
And would you put your money on it for this time around that Arsenal can turn around their fortunes in Europe at least, James?
No. I think the attitude's wrong. Forgive me for saying it, but the attitude is wrong. The attitude is, we're top of the league, 5 points. Yes, we've been here before. We've been here before in 2003 and 2009. That's two separate occasions. Back then, you didn't have social media. Back then, you didn't have influencers. But I remember off the top of my head, speaking on your channel tonight, two particular occasions in March 2003 and March 2009 where we were 5 points clear in March and still didn't win it. So let's just take one game at a time.
Yeah.
Let's be humble, because I think that the older fan base, as you say, we are very much described as legacy fans. But the difference is we know our history and we want to embrace our history, because football was played before 1992 with Sky. I'm currently reading a book by Steve Tong about the turf wars on the history of London football. And if Arsenal could have been moved to Fulham, Arsenal could have been moved to Battersea, but we ended up in North London. We ended up thanks to a Mr. Henry Norris and the Chapman era, which I still does not. I mean, okay, I'm reading the material about it, but it still doesn't get the credit he deserves. 3 title wins in 4 years in the 30s. Arsenal 3 title wins in 4 years. I don't think it's happened since, is it? And just scouting of a player, giving a player an opportunity. I mean, Ted Drake, for example, signed for 6,500 by Southampton. Are we going to look at Southampton for strikers these days? But yet, one of the best strikers we've had was signed for 6,500 from Southampton in Ted Drake. So it just goes to show. But I mean, we have got to embrace our history more. This isn't about what a fan channel said, what an influencer said. This is about the cannon on our chest and how much it means to all of us, regardless of our background, regardless of whether we can go, whether we can't, whether we're close to home or whether we're far away. So, it'll be very interesting to see what happens.
Let me go back into the last question that Tygonosaurus asked you, James. It was so true. The youngsters need to watch Mickey Thomas go against Liverpool, and I think I think we spoke about again the legacy fans, whereas compared to the youngsters, I wouldn't like to tarnish the brush with all the youngsters this year. They don't know nothing beyond there, but they're not going to literally go back, are they? Beyond maybe 10 years. And see the Arsenal history. They're not going to do that, are they? The feasting for information now is the here and now.
Yeah, no. If it was a YouTube short of 45 seconds, they'd be all over it, I think. If it was a YouTube short of 45 seconds, I think they'd be all over it. But long term, it doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
Long term, it doesn't work like that. I mean, if you look at the as I say, I mean, I've been a football writer interviewing players and managers for nearly 7 years. And you don't start at the top. You start at the very bottom interviewing unknown Dutch players and managers using your linguistic skills. And then you build. And then before you know it, you've got the likes of Viv Anderson and Graham Potter and Danny Cowley and Viv Anderson. But even now, I mean, I still get overtures for YouTube almost every day of the week. But I always rebuff them. And people will say, "Oh, why do you do that?" Well, I'll tell you why I do that. If I can quickly draw my interview with Ian Bishop from last Friday, the closing stages of that interview, Ian Bishop, formerly of West Ham, Manchester City and Everton, thanked me by saying, "James, thank you so much for the interview today. I've really, really enjoyed it, and it's put me in a really good mood for the rest of the day, especially to talk about all my memories." And there you have just a conversation going back and forth, an interview which has been written up that will hopefully be published in the next fortnight. There's no sensationalism about it. There's no instant montage. There's no looking at the likes or the amount of views and that kind of thing. It's a football interview about a fine professional's football career, and I'd much rather be in that position.
Well, you know what, James, the funny thing you mentioned there, one of the segments that I need to get back to do is the player profile segment when I talk about players who play for Arsenal over the last 50 and 60 years. And even sometimes when I check the analytics and see which videos are still bubbling, those videos, James, where I featured like, Alan Ball, Andy Linegan, players who play for Arsenal over the last 30 and 40 years, people still watch those videos, James. Whereas the videos I've done over the last maybe 1-2 years, they don't have a long shelf life. Maybe 2 weeks and that's it. But those videos, when I'm talking about those players, people still have an interest. Glenn Helder, James, still people watching that video there, James.
Yeah, well, it's wonderful. I mean, Glenn Helder is becoming more prominent here, doing more and more football videos. I remember my Twitter correspondence with him, where he was in awe of a London Gooner, corresponding with him in his mother tongue in a written sense. And he even said about interviews, James, a busy man at the moment, but you never know in future. Yeah. But for example, on my LinkedIn, I don't have social media anymore, just LinkedIn. I uploaded my Bob Wilson interview from 2019 on my LinkedIn ahead of Arsenal Bournemouth, and it was viewed more than 3,000 times. So I was delighted with that. For my network to have viewed that 3,000 times with a real Arsenal legend, a real living legend that the man is. And as I say, I just do it to kind of keep myself in the shop window and see what will happen. And you just never know. And I don't miss Twitter and that kind of thing. I think what's happening at the minute with the online abuse, I think I think it's going to come to a head where something quite bad will happen. And but it's just, you would never ever say those things to people's face, but yet you'll write them online. I mean, I think the worst I ever had was, oh, your interviews are very 1, 2, 3. Upon which my response was, if you think you can do better, I can arrange my next interview for you to do it. And then they went back into their shell. And as I say, my reasoning for closing my account with Twitter of 7,500 was more personal frustration and being driven round the bend by people who work in the media side of Queen's Park Rangers, Millwall and Charlton Athletic, expecting me to pass on details of players and managers that I've spoken to and expecting me to assist them in doing their job. Whereas they work for a professional football club and they should be able to do their job themselves. So from my point of view, that was becoming a little bit too much, where I wasn't in with a professional football club. So, but it was just more, if I was, I wouldn't be approaching strangers on Twitter and asking them to assist and do my job.
But why would they do that, James? You are in a prime position to do that, but yet you're asking somebody on Twitter to. Why would they do that, James? Is it laziness? Is it unprofessional? Why would they do that for?
I think it's a combination. I think it's a combination of not being prepared. I think it's a combination of not having enough knowledge about that specific club. I mean, for example, Millwall, off the top of my head, started from a jam factory, from a guy who moved down from Scotland, Morton and Jam Co. So you could do something about that, couldn't you? Charlton, the Addicts. Where does that name come from? That name comes from a fisherman fishmonger who would give the players pieces of haddock after the game. Queen's Park Rangers, they used to play in green. These are just things off the top of my head. I haven't got any Google screen next to me. I'll just show people either side. There's no Google screen next to me. It's just knowledge that you know. And if you are working for these clubs, you would have the ability to say, let's do this. Let's focus on a period of time. Let's focus on Millwall's early days, where they were at a period where I think their first 11 games at the Den, I don't think they conceded a goal. Now, you wouldn't attribute that to Millwall, would you? But it's something that happened. If you think of Crystal Palace, they brought Selhurst Park for £2,750 back in the day, back in the 20s, And as I say, these are things it's just innate knowledge, where I think in the current day, they can't see past the here and now. But if you try to encompass everybody and try to encompass that fan that maybe hasn't missed a game for 50 years, or to tell about that player that they really rated, I think that's something which is really important. So, as I say, whether I'll get my chance, I don't know. I've received a rejection letter from Luton where, unfortunately, they didn't even write my name. They just put good afternoon. So, as I say, we'll just see. But what will be, will be.
Yeah. James, shall we go into live chat and see who has joined us? Maybe there might be some more questions.
Sounds like a good plan.
Yeah. Okay. So let's see. So we've got our moderator, Ashley. Good evening to you, Ashley. And we've got Emerson, who is one of the newest panelist contributors on Canon 4 TV. He also features on the Thursday night show with Ange. Sporting Lisbon will not be a pushover. Then all Arsenal fans are expecting to watch their latest league match on Saturday, and they play a similar style to us, but their midfield is their key on Thursday.
Yeah, very clever from Emerson there. Very, very clever for him to say that as well. And great minds think alike.
People are on about the great comeback, but forget the easy 2 goals we conceded against a low-ranked team. A top team would have won that game. Yeah,
absolutely. But I must also say that the fans at the Emirates, Alex, if we were 2-0 down in recent years, they would have left.
Yeah,
but they stayed. So you have to also commend that. But against a better team, we've got 12 games: West Ham away, Newcastle away, Fulham away, sandwiched in between Europa League commitments. The more games you play, so very, very exciting time. But I just hope that we don't end up empty-handed, because I think that could have consequences for the likes of Odegaard, for the likes of Saka, who quite clearly and deservedly want to win things.
Yeah. Seeing War Games, that's Richard. Richard, good afternoon to you. He's going for a 2-1 win against Sporting Lisbon, I believe. Colin, good afternoon to you, Colin. It says, let's go slackers, hit that like button while you learn from James Rowe.
Yeah, I didn't pay him to say that. Very kind of him. Very kind of him.
I paid him, James. The goals we conceded were an abomination of defensive principles, Ashley, as well. Fabio is not ready. Emile Smith-Rowe should have started in that position.
Yeah, my gripe with Fabio Vieira, it was an awful lot of money. And for not much more money, you could have got Vitinha, who they can't get out the first 11 at Paris Saint-Germain. I think he plays every single game. So therein lies the small details. Pay the extra 10 million, get Vitinha, who helped them to win a title and to win a Portuguese Cup, I believe. But as I say, it's I suppose I'm not the one that makes the decisions at club level, but there's enough resources at clubs now just to take a step back and block out all the outside noise and try to make the right decision.
James, what's your thoughts quickly on Charlie Patino? I mean, I know he's gone to Blackpool.
I hope he gets an opportunity sooner rather than later, because he appears to be doing very well for Blackpool. So you hope that he's not loaned out again, unless he's loaned out to a Premier League team next year. I think that would be acceptable. But you hope for him that he gets to make his debut in the Premier League for Arsenal sooner rather than later. It's okay playing League Cup, but next season it looks as if we're going to be playing Champions League, and when you've been out of it for 6 years, they will show no mercy. They will show no mercy in Munich. They will show no mercy in Milan, and they will show no mercy in Madrid, and we've got to be aware of that.
Colin goes on to say, tell them, James, we are currently in first, but we have won nothing yet. And darn well had better not think Sporting Lisbon is going to be a pushover. FA Cup and League Cup style.
No, I fully agree. I think it's a great point as well. And we've just got, we used to be very, very humble as a fan base. I know times have changed and society has changed, but we have to stay humble. And most important thing is for us to win something this season. It's really important.
Yeah. And again, another new contributor on the Canal 42 family. I believe that's Desmond. There's well done, Alex. A beautiful show. Hope we win. Let's keep our fingers crossed for that, at least. Emphasis is a good show with James, a good knowledge of football and other things that fans do not hear or see about. Well, James and myself, we've done a variety of different shows. I think for me, one of my favorite shows, James, was when we were speaking about learning to speak another language. I might even upload that video up again, James. That for me, that was one of the best shows that we've done together, James.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. It was wonderful to talk about our journeys, our respective journeys in Costa Rica and in the Netherlands. And I still remember the quote you gave of when you asking directions and realizing that it's now or never. And I like to think with that show, if we've helped one person, then we've done a great job. Because when you speak a foreign language, it's like climbing a mountain. It's like climbing a mountain, but all the ingredients you need: desire, a good attitude, willingness to accept when you've made a mistake and admit when you've made a mistake. But it's the experience which stands you in good stead. I mean, I never thought that I'm closing in on 17 years here in Amsterdam in a couple of months' time. The ability to interview Dutch players and managers in their mother tongue, which is fantastic. And, we did a really good job there because, British people in general, they get a bad rep for not learning foreign languages, but we are not all the same. Yeah. I left school in 2000, but I wonder if the current education board places as much emphasis on a gifted child in languages as they do a gifted child in science or mathematics or English. I'm not so sure. So, you know, if you can upload the video again, great. And if we can help more people, the merrier, because it's a big old world out there, not just in the football sense, but also in the travel sense as well.
Yeah, and I think you know, as well as that, on top of that, we were speaking about for a lot of the youngsters who are born and bred in the UK, having to live, you know, in another country. And I'm going to use maybe Jude Bellingham as an example, and having to learn another language. It can only be enriching to your life. You know, why would it not? But like you say, James, I think people who from the UK at least do get a bad rap, but we're not all the same.
We're not all the same. And you say about Jude Bellingham, he was 18. Marcus Edwards as well at Sporting Lisbon. You know, I'm sure he can say in Portuguese what on Thursday. You know, but I mean, I remember having a disagreement with my head of year at school, and she said the following to me as a 16-year-old, where she said, "Your science for a boy of your age is atrocious." Head of year, mind, it said this to me. And then I said, "But my French is maybe the best in the entire year. You don't give me any encouragement and you don't help me. And I do everything with one hand tied behind my back." And her response was, "Oh, you won't need your foreign languages in future." 5 years later, after that conversation took place, I was living and working in the Netherlands. So you never know what's around the corner. But 5 years later, after that conversation took place, I was speaking Dutch every day of the week. And so you just never know what's around the corner. So as I say, for the people learning, just continue that grind. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. You know, stand up and be counted. If somebody corrects you, don't take it personally. Take it as if they're willing to help you because they want you to get better. You know, I can understand when somebody's corrected, they think, oh, you know, why they're doing that? They're doing it to make you better. So have that in the back of your mind and learn as quickly as you possibly can, but to a very high level as well. And the most important thing is don't give up and don't give in.
Yeah. Let's read off these last few comments. Colin says, "A great show, Alex. Any shows, James, is the bomb."
Hope the bomb means a good thing.
Yeah. One for you, James from Emerson says, "What are your views of the current under-21 team this season, James?"
No, fantastic question from Emerson. A fantastic question. I look forward to speaking to him soon, I think. A lot of promise, a lot of youthful exuberance, I think. And hopefully they will have a pathway. I think that's very important to give those players a pathway. You know, you've got to remember that, you know, professional players in academy football, 0.12% make it. You know, and they make it for a whole host of reasons. Could be a manager that doesn't rate them, could be a position change, could be anything. You think of our trophy winning teams, we've always had academy graduates, and that's something which has happened throughout our history. And you hope that they will get a pathway and extended contracts. But no, great question from Emerson, as he's had a couple tonight and he's done very well. So thank you very much, Emerson. I look forward to speaking soon.
Brilliant. See any more? Okay. Ashley is just trying to show off that he can actually speak German. Puedo hablar español.
Well, I think we've inspired people. I think we've inspired people. I think we'll have to do a cannon fodder in Dutch and a cannon fodder in Spanish. I think
that's a good idea.
Just to have, for example, I spoke to Sharifa a couple of times. We could do one in Dutch if you would like. And obviously, you taking part in the Spanish one as well. Maybe that's something for the future. But there again, it would. I don't know. I'm just thinking off the top of my head. You could have a half an hour show where you've got complete fluency, which would only go to one particular country. In the case of the Netherlands and Belgium, of course, you know, the Netherlands and also Belgium. Put some of Belgium speak Dutch as well. And then in the case of the Spanish one, would have a larger reach. But it's definitely something that we could look at, and you have to ask Sharifa if she might be interested in that. I think
that is a really good idea, James. Really
I think we've opened up a new market. I think a little bit accidentally, but still.
Well, that's it. That's the end of this show, at least until I think maybe next week. But yeah, Sporting Lisbon this Thursday, James, isn't it?
Yeah, this Thursday, local time, quarter to I believe local time is quarter to 6, because obviously in Portugal they still have the same time as the UK.
Yeah.
So quarter to 6. So for the people going out and about in Lisbon afterwards, I think they're going to have a lot of fun, win, lose or draw.
Well said, James. Well said. So that's it. I hope you enjoy this show. Again, Europa League action with both James Rowe and myself. But thank you for the comments as well. And unfortunately, Tyrannosaurus didn't come in. I think maybe it's just due down to the work commitments. But we did read out his questions there, laid over from last week. But James,
yeah,
James,
hopefully he'll catch the show and realise he's been remembered.
Yeah,
we are men of our words.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I might actually upload it on maybe later on this evening. But James, it's always a pleasure speaking to you, my friend. Always a pleasure.
Really enjoyed it, and I'm really pleased we've opened up a new market a little bit still.
And that's it until next week. And this has been Cannon Fodder, the channel for Arsenal fans all over this world.